What is a writer? Do you define your success as a writer by financial success, or is it simply just by the act of writing? And also, what is truth in writing? These are powerful questions, and our guest tonight on Writer Talks is going to explain her perspective from a very creative, unique outlook. Welcome to Writer Talks. I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkin. Every week, I get to interview the winners of our monthly contests. And with us today is a very talented, very prolific writer, Leah Holbrook Sackett. She is coming to us live from St. Louis. She's a fascinating person. You're welcome.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Your winning short story, Sticker Shock, is going to be published in one of our international anthologies, and you are an extremely talented and prolific writer writing.
I agree with that 100%. I feel it's a vocation.
Mm-hmm.
I knew when I was a teenager that even if I never made money at it, I was going to be a writer because I just had to. I had to get those feelings and those stories on paper. Even if it was only my best friend that was going to read it, I had to do it. It was just who I was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. Writers write and writers don't retire.
That's right.
So that's beautiful. I love that. And you also wanted to talk about truth in writing. So why is that important?
Well, if you want people to take the time to read what you write, you have to be honest with them. You have to be honest with your readers. And I think the truth in writing can come in many forms. You know, if you're doing memoirs, autobiography, then obviously you have to be very honest with your readers. But then you'll also have to be very honest with yourself. If you're not honest with yourself, then whatever you're putting down on that piece of paper is a waste of the reader's time. And they'll know. I mean, readers will know if you were trying to feed them a line or if you are being sincere with your life experiences. But even if you're writing fiction, I know that there aren't fairies flying around or, aliens from other planets, whatever you might be writing about. Even if you're, even when you're writing fiction, you have to know your characters to get to the truth of your story. All stories, sci-fi, fantasy, Western, romance, no matter what your genre, there has to be an element of truth to the characters and why they do, what they do, how they learn, how they evolve. You capture that truth, the rest of the story will come together around it.
I love that. I love how that's not something I've thought about much in those terms. So thank you for that. I hope it's helping all the writers out there watching right now.
I also know with writers, when people come to me and they find out I'm a writer and they say, oh, I want to be a writer too. Or, oh, I have an idea for a story. And recently I had someone come to me like that and they said, I hope that's not insulting because I know this is your career and I'm acting like it's just something I could do. And I said, no, it's not insulting. Anybody can be creative. Anybody can write. If you're going to be successful at it, you just have to stick with it and you have to be honest with it. And I know when I was first writing, I had a short story. I was in my MFA program. And one of my professors, he read this story and he said, I don't like this part here. And he singled out an area. And I said, but that's the one part of the story that's true.
Oh, no.
Oh, and that's when I learned it doesn't matter if it's true, if it doesn't feel true.
Oh.
And so I refused to cut it out of the story. I went back and I rewrote it. And I rewrote it in a way that would make the reader feel this really happened to this character.
Oh.
I know what happened to that character, but I need to make them feel it to them so they can believe it. And then it was fine. So even people who want to write, they have a good idea for a story, or a lot of people experience something in their life and their job, and they think, oh, that would make a good story. Well, you got an instinct. It probably would make a good story. But just because it's true, that doesn't mean you don't have to put the work into it to make it feel true to the reader.
I love that. That's powerful guidance. Thank you for that, Leah.
Oh, you're welcome.
So, so you're fortunate in that you get to write full time. So can you talk about the importance of, again, keeping things in perspective, that you don't have to be a full-time writer to truly be committed to your craft?
Um, yeah, for me, I'm lucky that I do get to write full time. For me, I stories come to me is how I feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll see something and I'll think, who does that for a living? Or why would that happen? And then it's every story is a mystery and I have to explore it to write it. And that's, I guess, what keeps me going as a full-time writer. It's definitely not the paycheck. There's hardly one at all. If anything, it's more of an expense. There's a whole line of things that you have to learn about being a writer if you want to try to make money at it. That's going to cost you money up front.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you publish? How do you find a publisher? When do you need an agent? All these things. That's a job in itself. So you have to do that, and you have to write if you want your work to get out there. I'm not even saying you're going to make money at it, but if you want your work to even just get out there and have an audience, you have to do
Right.
all of those things.
Right. Yes, yes, that's powerful. So let's talk about your work. You said you have
Okay.
2 novels and you're working on another one?
Yes, I have 2 short story collections coming out, actually. One will come out this year, and it's called You Don't Know Who You Are Until You've Gone Too Far.
Ooh.
And it's thank you. And it's divided into 2 sections. The first section is about grief. And then the second section is about the penal system and how that really doesn't work too well in our
Oh,
society.
wow.
And then my second book is coming out in spring 2022, and it's called Catawampus in Sweet Gum County. And it's a collection of short stories that all take place in this little fictional place called Sweet Gum County, which is based in Southwest Missouri. And the novel I'm working at is also based in Sweet Gum County. So they're kind of like spin-offs of each other. One's a
I
novel, one's
love
a
it.
collection of short stories. I'm having a lot of fun with it because I can revisit characters
Uh-huh.
from short stories into the novel, work everything
Uh-huh.
in together. I'm really building out this place. And I'm like, gosh, I'm not going to want to put everything here.
Oh, I love it. That's so fun. Awesome. And then you're also working on a new novel, right?
Yes, that's the one that's called, I didn't tell you what that was called. I'm sorry.
It's
That
okay.
one, that one is called The Secret of Sweet Gum County. And that's
Mm,
going to pull on characters from the short stories collection. And so people will resurface. And I always think that's fun when characters make a cameo in other character stories. So I'm having a lot of fun with that one, but it is slow going.
why is it slow? Like you were talking about the tortoise and the hare can sometimes describe the speed with which you write. So please elaborate on that fascinating point.
I feel like with short stories, because I've been writing those for so long,
Mm-hmm.
and they just come most natural to me, that
Mm-hmm.
those are like the hair. I mean, they just like, boom, they're there. I get the idea. Go through it. The evolution of the characters is much faster. Everything is faster and tighter in a
Mm-hmm.
short story.
Mm-hmm.
So working on a full-length novel, I've written a novella, and that was just this twisty turny experience for me. I think because it was my first attempt to write something longer than a short story.
Uh-huh.
But my novel, I have it so structured and outlined and researched and notes and character developments that it's so much smoother but slower.
Oh, okay.
It's a slower momentum, which feels more like the tortoise. So I know that
Mm-hmm.
I have faith that I'm going to get there, but it's just not going to be that same kind of rush that I get with a short story.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can write short story in a week.
Oh, how many words is that?
20,000 or so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And, a novel is 60,000 words. So obviously it's going to take longer. I don't feel like it's in one sense, I don't feel like it's taking longer. I
Mhm.
have my how many words I should have per chapter to reach my word limit goal. I normally don't write to word limits, short stories. I just write to the story's done.
Oh.
Um, and that's really how you have to write anything to the story's done.
Uh-huh.
Otherwise, if you're filling it with fluff and and you're digressing, it's not going to be a good story.
Right, right,
Uh,
right.
so, learning the trajectory of your story. You might get an idea and you think it's going to be a novel, but once you get to writing it, you realize there's not enough here to make this a
Mhm.
novel. It's just going to stretch it out.
Mhm.
And vice versa. Sometimes you might try to pack too much into a short story. And you need to let that get some legs, let it move.
Uh-huh. I love it. I love it. So, Leah, when you were a guest on my other show, the Goddess Power Show, you shared something really powerful that can help so many people. And it's that you have bipolar disorder.
Yes.
And that once you found the right treatment, you were able to really, really thrive as a writer. Can you talk about the journey that you were on with that and how it can help other writers who might feel that it's a hindrance?
Sure. So like I said, I always wrote. Yeah, as soon as I could write, I wrote. I wrote really bad poems when I was a little kid, like you would expect a little kid to write. So I always wrote and I always wanted to write. But when I had the onset of the illness, it's very disruptive to your life, to all aspects of your life. So even though the wide swing of emotions could produce a feeling of creativity, and I would write and I would capture that. I also would then do nothing with it. I wouldn't finish it, or I didn't know what to do with it, um, because I was all over the place. Once I got diagnosed and properly medicated and proper therapy, I finally had the structure that I needed to take all those swings and to take all those feelings. And I was going to write them down anyway, but to pursue it, to
Mm,
commit to it,
mhm.
and to see it through. And that was in itself a good, really good form of therapy, of being able to see something all the way through. Nobody feels good
Mm.
about themselves when they start projects and just never finish anything.
No, no,
Yeah.
that's really bad for morale.
Yeah. So
Mm,
having the medical and family attention and support that I needed, I was able to fulfill my dreams
mhm.
and to make it happen. And it felt much better. And I did not lose any of my creativity. I know so many people who need any kind of mental health help. If they're an artist or a writer or a musician, they think it's going to cut into that creativity.
Right.
And it doesn't. It really, honestly, for me, it did not. And I got to the point which I didn't care if it did cut into the creativity. I needed some help.
Mhm.
But it didn't at all. In fact, it allowed me to manage it. It allowed me to manage my creativity, and
Mm.
not in a weird corporate America way manage it,
Oh,
but
right, right. Uh-huh. I understand. So, Leah, I think it's amazing that you have so much courage to talk about this because you said your mission is to shatter the stigma, and now especially amongst creatives. Can you talk about that?
yeah. I'm the first person in my family to get properly diagnosed and treated. And I think, God, how much easier my life would have been if we had known what this was, um, which was rather impossible because the mental health community, psychiatry, they didn't know back, in my grandparents' age. So it really wasn't possible until my age to seek that help, where stigmas were already starting to break about going out and getting that kind of help. Um, and, there are other people in my family younger than myself that are able to get help sooner than I was, because we know, because those stigmas are gone. We don't have to be embarrassed. We don't have to feel like we're bad people. I mean, people who have problems with their livers or their hearts, they don't feel like they're bad people. They
Right,
just get the medical help they need and move on. And
right.
um, I really want to help anyone, whether they're a creative type or not, anyone who has mental health issues. You're really doing yourself a disservice if you live in fear of getting help. It's just help,
I
you're,
love the way you're saying this.
I mean, you're not afraid to ask for another helping of cake. So don't be afraid to ask for something that you need. Just as you need oxygen, as you need food, you need, if you have this part of your body isn't functioning properly, you need to get help.
Mhm.
And I think the biggest thing for me is I realized, I'm a mother, that if my child or children were to be like me, I needed to be here and be a good example of how to deal with this. And so, and I hope that for other people that I meet, and younger people that I meet, that it's okay. It's okay to have this disorder. What's not okay is to not take responsibility for yourself, and to let your health and your life just go to pot.
Yes, absolutely. Wow, because then you can't do anything, much
No,
less write.
no, yeah. Or you could write, but you know what? It really is going to just stay in that journal and not go anywhere else if you do not get the life support that you need.
Wow, that is so powerful. So can you talk about how managing your the bipolar disorder has enabled you to be such a prolific writer? I mean, your website is so impressive with
Oh,
all the
thank
things that
you.
you've written.
Thank you. I think, well, before I got the professional help that I needed, um, I had a suspicion that I had the disorder. I tried to just manage it on my own. Doesn't
Mm,
work like that. Just like with
mhm,
heart disease or whatever, you can't just manage that on your own.
mhm,
um, so that when I got to the point where I started getting help, that was the first time I could really make a serious approach towards being a creative writer, a fiction writer. I was working as a writer at agencies, boutique agencies for clients, and I'd write about their products, and I did do that kind of writing, and I made good money at it, but it wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't what fulfilled me. I had like this empty space. Once I got the help, I had the courage to put myself out there more, to finish those stories, to
mhm.
go back to school while working full time and being a single mother.
Oh my goodness.
But I suddenly had the tools I needed
Yes.
to do all of that.
Hmm.
And so really, I think you just need to look at it as like you just have a tool missing out of your toolbox, and you need to get that tool, and then you can do anything you want.
Hmm. I love it. That's wonderful. That's such great guidance. So now let's talk about writing.
Okay.
Do what's your method? Do you outline? Do you have any special rituals that you follow when you write? Do you have like a word goal every day?
Okay, so yes to all that. I first of all, I just try to keep the floodgates open for inspiration. So I'm
Mhm.
constantly writing down in a notebook, or while I'm watching TV, I'll start typing notes. Like I'll just turn a phrase will catch me, and I'm like, oh, I like that. What could I
Uh-huh.
do with that phrase, or what could I do
Uh-huh.
with that word? I love words. I do the word a day with Merriam-Webster, and I just capture things that I'm like, oh my God, I never heard of that word before. That's amazing. So capturing, getting that input, you need to have input if you're going to have any output. So
Mhm.
capturing all those things that inspire me and encourage me. And then I put those down, and some are just stronger than others for whatever reason. I can't really tell you. That's probably part of the creative element. But some things strike me more than others, and I start working on them, and I write down notes. I usually get fixated on the main character of the story. It's usually what grabs me. And who are they, and where did they come from, and what did they do, and how did they get to this point in their life, and where are they going, and who do they love, and what they eat, and you know and all their
Yeah.
little quirks. And I just love that part of it. So I have a lot of documents that are just character sketches. um, and then if I feel like this is really going somewhere, I continue to be interested in it.
Mhm.
um, I start sketching out a plot line and setting it in a point in time, like, when is this going to occur? Is this in the 70s? Or this is in the future? So now I've got character sketches and plot lines. And so all these notes come together, and I just keep going through it, so that I'm filling it out with more and more information. I'm fattening the calf. And once I do that, and then I can start with a short story, it just starts to evolve into the story itself. With a novel, I start outlining, okay, this is what has to happen in this chapter for this to happen in this chapter. And I go through it, and then I'll just start writing and adding the character sketches in and filling it in. And I try to do a minimum of 1,000 words a day. Sometimes that is easy to blow past, and I just keep going. It's like, oh, I have 3,000 words today.
I love it.
Other times it's like, I got 400 words today.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. And if you get stuck in one spot, you can write in a linear fashion when you're writing a novel, but point A to point B, but you don't have to. You can, if you get stuck at one point, you can just say, oh, I would like it if the character did this, but that can't happen yet. So you work on a part of the story that's a little later, and you'll come back to it, and you'll revise it, and things will change and evolve. But that's writing. Mm-hmm. Writing's not making a grocery list.
Right. Oh, I love it. Love it. Love it. It's so cool how every writer has their own system.
Yes.
But when we share our tips of how we do it, how you do it, you can help other people, because they might be like, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way. So do you have
Mm-hmm. You do have to do that. You have to, like how our discussion here about how I do it. You have to listen to podcasts that cover that. You have to read books about writing if you want to be a better writer. Just like anything, if you were doing in your life, if you don't put the time in to read about it or to read samples of it, you're not going to ever reach your next level.
Right. Exactly. Okay. So what tips do you have to other writers to reach their next level?
You have to read. I think everyone says that. You do have to read, and what you love to read, I think that's what's most important. That may not be what you write. You might love sci-fi, but it's just not in you to do the world building and everything that's necessary in sci-fi. But the feeling that you get from those characters in sci-fi, how people respond to each other, relationships, well, that can be the same in sci-fi or any other genre. It needs those same building blocks. So I think read what you love. And sometimes when you're writing, it's just the mechanics of writing. You're like, how do I say this so this makes sense? How do I feed this a bit of information in so it doesn't feel like I'm just saying it? How can I be subtle? Go back to some of your favorite writers. I bet they're doing a great job of it. That's why you love them, because they're so natural. It's so smooth that you don't even realize that they are doing all this work that they're doing with mechanics and syntax. You're not even conscious of it.
Wow.
So go back, look at that, highlight it, copy and paste it, put it on your screen, and really take that in so you can learn how to do that too.
Love that. Love that. Are there any don'ts that you offer for writers?
Don't edit while you write. That'll take forever. And I don't care if you're writing creatively or you have a term paper and you're in 5th grade, just get it all down. Yes. Then you go back. If you try to go for perfect grammar, your first time out, every sentence by sentence from the beginning to the end, the only thing that writes like that is a computer.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. So don't edit. Resist the urge. Have the discipline.
Yeah. You go back, you do that later. I think that if you really want to write, you need to think of yourself not so much as a writer, but a storyteller. Like
Mm.
everybody's got at least one person in their family or their group of friends who's a great storyteller. They don't
Mm.
just tell you what happened. They have a way of like everyone is hanging on to their every word of what
Yeah.
happened. And it could be the simplest story of how they got a flat tire, but the way they tell it is
Mm.
compelling. You
Mhm.
have to have that. You have to do that. And so that's why you want to just keep on pushing the story out, and then
Mhm.
you can come back and fix the grammar and everything else.
Mhm. I love it. I love it. Okay, Leah. So, any final words you'd like to share with all the viewers of Writer Talks tonight?
Um, yeah, I think a lot of people, when they think, oh, I got to read, they go out and they get a book, and that's what they think they have to read. Don't give up on your short stories. Don't give up on your journals, like Two
Mm.
Sisters. Though that
Oh,
is a wealth of knowledge and information. And you read one story, and guess what? You get to read another story by a different author, and they're going to do things a little different. And you
right.
can compare. And by doing that comparison, you're really going to learn
Mm-hmm.
about yourself as a writer and what
Mm.
you enjoy and what you have to work at.
Yes. Thank you for that point, Leah. You can go to twosisterswriting.com and look at the winning stories and see such a diversity of writers from around the world with all kinds of different storytelling techniques. So, having that breadth of exposure to writing styles and personalities can really, really enhance your own skills because you just learned so much. So, that was brilliant. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you.
It's always so fun to talk with you. I'm so proud of you. I love your website. Can you please give everybody the address?
Okay, it's www.leah, Leah, Holbrook Sackett,
Okay,
SACKETT.com. So it's my
great.
name, but the H at the end of the Leah and the H at the beginning of Holbrook is shared.
I love that. So we'll
Yeah.
have it in the link in the description box so you can click on it and visit her website and also go to twosisterswriting.com and read the winning stories. So, Leah, thank you again for joining me here on Writer Talks.
Thank you. It's
You're
my
welcome.
pleasure. And thank
You're
you for
welcome.
having the courage to put together a journal like this.
Oh,
It's amazing.
oh, you're welcome. You mean the anthology?
Well, the anthology and just the regular issues, and it's just all it's wonderful for us writers.
Thank you. Yay. That's the mission. We're celebrating our writers. Thank you, Leah.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. You're welcome. I wish you the best and keep in touch. I'll have you back to talk about more exciting things that you're doing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you, all of you, for joining us here on Writer Talks, where you got to meet Leah Holbrook Sackett. She is a prolific, fascinating, award winning writer, and she has two new novels, two new books out, as well as she's working on her new novel. So please visit her website because she has lots of wonderful, wonderful stories for you to read. I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkins, and here at Two Sisters Writing and Publishing, we encourage you to submit your writing to our monthly contests because you get a chance to be published on our website and in our physical book, our international anthology of writers. So please go to twosisterswriting.com and click contests, see what we're offering. We've got all kinds of contests happening in 2021, and we want to read your work so you can be on Writer Talks and celebrate it and talk about all your favorite things about writing. That's our passion, that's our purpose, and we love to come together and talk about it. So please give us a thumbs up for the show today. Please also subscribe to the channel. Drop us a comment if you'd like to ask me or Leah a question or make a comment. Love to hear from you. Follow me on Twitter at Elizabeth Atkins or at sisterswriting.com and get back to work on your writing. So I wish you happy reading and happy writing. We'll see you next time.